Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jared from Jared Boas Photography. Today I want to talk to you about how to make better landscape photographs. And I have about 5 different ways. You can essentially walk out your front door, go to wherever you want to go, and use these steps, and you'll see a dramatic difference in the kind of photographs you're taking. So before we dive in, I just want to say if you're interested in the channel or this sort of content, consider hitting the like button, consider subscribing, because that's definitely going to help the channel out, help it grow, and that'll help me kind of do more of this stuff in the future. And if you do all that, please hit the little bell so you get notifications next time I post and everything. So that'd be great. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the number one way I would say to improve your photography right out of the gate is to use a tripod. I've been using a tripod for 15, 17 years, as long as I've been doing landscape photography. I use a Really Right Stuff TFC 14, I think. It's carbon fiber. I barely feel it when I am hiking. There's tripods for every budget. I would say buy quality over something cheaper because you're going to end up buying something more expensive later on. But really they're invaluable as far as getting a steady shot with a longer shutter speed, and when you need to let more light into the lens. If you do that handheld, you're going to get a bunch of camera shake and blur. So you can take a look at a couple of the photos that I've used tripods with. This first one's from Firefall back in 2019. This is towards the end of the day. The light's starting to fade a little bit, but I obviously have it on a tripod. I'm zoomed into about 185 millimeters. I forget the exact shutter speed, but if I was doing this handheld, you wouldn't be able to even see like what this photo looked like. This way it's tack sharp, I get a longer exposure, and I really get the look and feel that I'm going for. So the second photo here is at the Watchman. It's taken on a bridge, but same thing. It was lower light, end of the day. Really got the those colors coming in from a clearing storm. So I have a longer shutter speed. You can see the movement in the water down at the bottom of the image, and so if you zoom in, it's still tack sharp. I'll put up the specs on this, but if you're doing this handheld towards the end of the day and trying to get a clear image, you're not going to be able to do it. You'd have to crank your ISO and you get a whole bunch of grain. So the first way to really make an impact on your imagery is use a tripod. It might be a little bit inconvenient with the added weight, but it really pays dividends as far as image quality goes. A wise man once said, "Get low," and that wise man was Little John. The number two way you can improve your landscape photos immediely is to either to get low or just change your perspective. If you're taking a photo at eye level, say on a wide angle lens, we all see that on a regular basis, right? Getting low or even getting high, like with drone photography, that's really popular right now. That is going to make the image a lot more impactful and a lot more interesting to the viewer. Now let me show you a few examples of that. So this first one is in Yosemite. I got pretty low to the water. You can see the reflection here. You can see some of the leaves in the foreground here. You can see a little bit of detail in the water. Just getting lower to the ground makes things seem a little more grand, a little more dramatic a lot of times. It just changes a perspective. It's something we don't see on a regular basis. Another example of that would be this photo right here. Similar thing. I was, shooting a waterfall. I got really down low, close to these rocks. And then it kind of draws you into the photo, and then it just makes everything seem a lot more, epic or dramatic. So those are things that I do a lot of times. And then, like I was saying, like even with drone photography, that's also changing perspective. It's getting higher, things that you're not normally seeing. So doing those things really gives the image more of an impact when you look at it. It gives the viewer a angle that they don't typically see, so it makes it more interesting to them. I'd say that would be the second way you can really change your photography almost immediately. The third way you can make changes to your photography almost immediately is adding foreground interest. Now, it kind of plays off my second bullet point, which was get low. Getting low, like I said, is changing your perspective, whether it's high or zooming in or getting low. So when you end up getting low or adding a foreground like subject, that changes perspective. It adds interest to the photo, be it some rocks, water, wildflowers, whatever. It changes how a photo seems like two-dimensional. It makes it more three-dimensional. It kind of pulls the viewer into the photo and has their eye kind of travel through it. It feels less two-dimensional. Now let me show you an example of that that I took. This is a photo that I took in Zion. I think this is called Canyon Overlook. I got pretty low to the ground with my tripod, and I emphasized these rocks in the foreground, and that kind of grabs your eye, and then your eye travels through the rest of the photo. Kind of also helps that there's this gorge, and I emphasize light and color and everything else on it. But just adding some foreground interest changes just how impactful a photo is to a viewer. So that would be the third way I would recommend how you can change your photography. The fourth way to really improve your landscape images is lighting. Now, obviously we can't change the lighting we get, but we can put ourselves in the best situation possible to get the best lighting we can get, right? So that usually means shooting around sunrise, sunset, twilight. Those times you're going to get more dramatic light, softer light. That light's going to bring out more colors in your landscape. You're just going to have a better overall image rather than if you shot in the middle of the day on a day with no clouds. It's going to wash out your image. You're going to have harsh shadows. It's just going to look flat, and it's just not going to have the same impact as a photo that was shot around those other times, because you're going to have a lot more color and a lot more drama, impact, all those things that you want your photograph to have. Now let's take a look at a couple images that have that. The first one would be this is an image of a couple moose that mooses that I was shooting in the Tetons, and this was probably like an hour or so before sunset, golden hour. So the sunlight was really nice. It was breaking through the clouds a little bit. It really lit up this whole scene, and it really accentuated a lot of what you see here on the moose. Their outlines, their fur, it just kind of made them glow. It made the whole scene glow, and it made to visualize personally, it made it amazing, and then it made the image that much more impactful. So then my second image or my example of this would be, this is a photo I took of Mount Shasta back in February of this year. We got here right as the sun was kind of peeking over the clouds and, coming up for sunrise, and we had these lenticular clouds, and they just caught all this color, and it made the entire scene just illuminate this like pink, purplish, glow, and it was just incredible to see. It was probably the best sunset I've ever seen. So yeah, if you want to really make your photographs pop and be that much more dynamic and impactful, make sure you're putting yourself in the best position to get the best lighting you can. Now, the last way to improve your photography is depth of field. Now, depth of field is kind of based on the understanding of the exposure triangle. The exposure triangle is ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and how they all work together to give you the proper exposure and depth of field. So I haven't talked about that yet on this channel, but if you'd like me to do that in the future, drop me a comment in the comment section and let me know if you'd like to see that in a future video. Now, as far as depth of field goes, you've probably heard of shallow depth of field. A lot of wedding photographers use a shallow depth of field to like isolate images or isolate subjects, people. But landscape photography, a lot of times you're looking for like a deeper depth of field to give your photographs depth. That's kind of the idea that makes the images a little more impactful, at least in my opinion. So let's take a look at an example of this. So this is these are some calla lilies that I shot around Big Sur. So you can see that from the front to the back is sharp, and it has a pretty good depth of field. Now, if this had a shallow depth of field, only the flowers in the front, only those would be in focus, and the other ones would kind of be blurred out. I had to do what you call a focus stack on this, just because I was so close. But if I pulled away a little bit, I could use a higher f-stop to make sure everything was pretty close to being sharp. Now I wanted like perfect sharpness on this, so that's why I did a focus stack, but that's something I can talk about in another video too, if that's something you're interested in. But using a higher f-stop or higher aperture around 8, 11, 16, those are going to give you a deeper depth of field. It's going to make your image sharper from front to back, overall giving your image a lot more depth. So that'd be the last way I'd say you can really make an impact on your photography going forward. I just want to say thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you kind of chugging along to the end here. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down in the comment section. I'll get back to you. I try to get back to every single person that leaves comments. If there's videos you'd like to see from me in the future, please let me know. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, also let me know, and let me know what I can do better next time. If you did find it interesting or useful, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing. Like I said earlier, it'll help me grow the channel and kind of keep things going and get some ideas for things going forward. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.